Episode 22, Geoff and Kira, Launch Radio. Happy Saturday.
October.
Happy October.
Crazy, right?
October's here already, and we've almost been doing this for 1 year now.
Insane.
That's pretty crazy.
That is pretty crazy.
Time really does fly.
When you're having fun, it does.
When you're having fun, it sure does, Kira. I'll tell you what.
What?
And we're all about having fun here on Launch Radio.
That's correct.
Today, we have a fun little topic, don't we?
Yeah, I think it piggybacks on what we talked about last week in society's moral compass.
Yes.
And where did it go?
Yeah.
I think we all would agree that people are a little more abrasive, a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more attitude toward others. I think there's that polarity.
Yeah.
Polarity. I was way off.
Happy Saturday.
Oh, dear God. Yes, that. Right. So I think there's a divide between a lot of people, and their opinions. And we touched on it last week. And today we're going into exactly why that's happening. And what part does religion play in it? Or the lack of?
Well, yeah, so let's jump right into that. I think that due to, I think it's a combination of things. I think that people, for whatever, in America and in the world as a whole, there seems to be back a century ago, and certainly before that, religion has always given people a strong moral compass and something to believe in. And and I'm Presbyterian myself. I was raised Christian and baptized.
Do you go to church?
I do, but I only go on like holidays, like Christmas.
When your parents are going and you're like, shit, I have to go.
Yeah, well, and I don't even know how much my parents go anymore, them too. So it's like, yeah. But I feel like, yes, so I might go maybe twice a year.
But you wouldn't go on your own. You're going out of obligation.
Correct.
Interesting.
I go on a holiday because it's like Christmas and it's friends and people going to church.
Right.
But that's a whole other question, is do we gather at a church or at a temple or wherever to see, is it a friend thing? Is it like to see our friends and people we know? And is that why we go? Or is it for the Bible and for what are the Quran and the
both?
Is it both reasons?
And now that there's this, it's statistically, we've seen a pretty steady decline with people saying that they don't, really participate in religion, or that they don't go to church, or they don't claim a particular religion.
Well, I think that.
And before, it was communities. As a group, you'd come together and pray.
Yeah.
Those were your neighbors. That's how you interacted with people. And now you can just interact with people with your phone. Just text them.
Right.
The sense of community has shifted.
Yeah.
Like, for example, how many people can actually say that they have a really strong based community? I know out here in LA, that's unheard of. It's very solo based, every man for himself here. There's not that like neighborhoody kind of kids running around like, Norman Rockwell kind of thing. I think the US has changed a little bit. And I wonder if it's because without the foundation of morals and what religion actually brought to the society, it's just free willy that we're acting out, right? So we don't have our own code of ethics that we create, whereas religion brought it to us. The priest or whoever would preach about, doing right by your neighbor and all of those types of things. So you leave, it goes into your brain that, neuroplasticity, it's a program that you're feeding into your brain. We don't have that program anymore.
That's right.
So now this is what it looks like.
So
this is what society now looks like.
I mean, I think it's an interesting place that we're at. And what you just said, something you touched on, which I think is the core of it that we're getting to. Well, first of all, there's these graphs where literally, if you do research online, I mean, there's an article from the Washington Post that said, literally organized religion is losing its followers. There's statistics. Now, statistics can, as we've all learned, be highly questionable because you can see any statistics you can see either way. There can be facts on both sides, but there's a lot of data to back up that the fact that there's a decline of religion in America, in Europe, that it's on the decline and that people don't have it anymore.
Well, I mean, it doesn't take a brain surgeon you walk outside, you see churches closing. That's because they're not having parishioners go and they can't afford it.
Correct.
So if you see churches closing, that means they're out of money. I know in Pittsburgh, before I left to move out here to Los Angeles, there were churches closing. And these were churches that were from like the 1700s that were open, and they had to close them because the older parishioners were dying, were basically getting old and dying, and there's the new generations not fueling it anymore.
And I remember going on a school trip in 2003 to Europe, and the name of the trip was Cathedrals. It was like looking through cathedrals in Europe. And I remember there was this guy, Jordan, who did back then, he went to college with me, but I remember his writings on it were so fascinating. I wonder if he still has them, if he ever listens to this.
Jordan, are you out there?
Jordan, where are you? Elon Jordan.
Elon Jordan.
Yeah, I went to
great
school.
Name.
I went to school at Elon, and so at Elon University in North Carolina. So Jordan, who went to Elon, but his writings were fascinating. But one thing he was noticing, and that I noticed as well, is how empty all of the cathedrals in Europe were.
Yeah.
In every country, it was just these big cathedrals that were like just sitting there,
kind of ghostly, a little haunted, a little like eerie, where you're like, where is everybody? When is mass? Like when do they have service here?
Completely empty. And so
I mean, the scandals don't help. Obviously, when that rocked the world of and speaking from a Catholicism point of view, I mean that burned so much, I mean, there's churches that closed because of it.
Yeah.
And I think the faith that people had toward a religious leader disintegrated, and they were just like, if I can't trust my priest, who can I? And they've abandoned religion. And then in our generation,
so we're getting to this point that I think, go ahead.
I think growing up, I had to go to CCD. I went to church every Sunday. I went to Catholic school. I wore the cute plaid skirt, but I rolled it because it was too long, but the nuns would have you like kneel, and then you put your fingers down. And if it needed to come all the way to the knee.
Yeah.
But all the girls were like, whatever. And we rolled it. Anyways.
Well, I mean,
those were my cheeky days in high school.
So you went to a Catholic school?
Yeah, I went to high school. Yeah.
Wow.
And then we found out years later that one of the brothers had sexually assaulted all of these kids in Australia before he had come to our school. I mean, it's riddled with darkness, and it's things that nobody knew about. I didn't want to go to church. Church was boring. I felt obligated and I didn't have a choice. But now that I'm an adult, I'm like, I don't feel like going. And I think spirituality has changed. Where people are like, I don't need religion. I'm a spiritual person, though. I practice higher consciousness and meditation and, I think spirituality has kind of shifted religion a bit as well. It's actually just, it's interesting because nowadays none of my friends go to church. I mean, I don't know anyone that claims to be like, oh, and anytime you ask, you're like, well, what religion? Well, I was brought up.
Right.
It's always, I was brought up Protestant or I was brought up. It's not like I'm a Catholic.
Yeah.
Because that means present.
I'm a Catholic. Right.
Whereas when you say, well, I was brought up, that means past tense. You're like, I don't practice anymore. I'm not, practicing Catholic.
Right. And I feel like, so that's definitely, that is happening more and more. And, the point that you touched on earlier, which I want to get to here is why is this happening and why is this decline? Well, I think that a big part of the decline, if not the vast majority of it, I mean, one piece is, there is all the corruption happening around religion, which does happen. But I think the biggest factor, which I think is more and more now, is how technology and AI and the internet are shifting people's moral compass, people's finding a way to fit in, finding a way to belong. And you have to ask yourself, is the new community gathering, are people just doing community gathering as Facebook groups, like in social media? Like people are at home and they're like, I can find community in a Facebook group.
Well, the problem is there's not that religious leader that you would normally look up to as like, okay, that's someone that I need to model my life around.
Right.
You don't have that in a Facebook group.
Right.
So like, do you personally have a code of ethics because you don't go to church? Is society starting to regress? Because, you think about the US was founded on a deeply religious people that came here. They wanted religious freedom from what the UK was, from England, Great Britain, but to practice what they wanted here. But they practiced, my God. In the East Coast, there's a church on every block, Do you feel that where we're at today with such anger and polarity. Damn it.
We're having fun with these words. Good times.
Geoff is like, you're no longer my co-host if you can't speak English.
Never.
Why can't I say that word?
Polarity.
Polarity.
Like polar. We got it.
All right. Anyways, do you feel that that's what's causing the fractures in society today? That we're missing that person to look up to of like, okay, that's what I strive to be. And I want to be a good person. Like who wakes up and is like, I want to be a good person today. When you go to church, they tell you to do that. And it goes into your brain and programs you. We don't have that program that goes into our brain anymore. So how do you keep a moral compass when you don't have that, oh, I need to check myself, that bounce back with that religious leader?
Well, I think religion is important for that reason. I think that's one of the great qualities of it. I think it always has been important for that reason. But when you don't have that, who is your moral leader? Is your moral leader you? Do you have to look inside yourself and guide yourself in that way? Is it your family? Is it your friends? Is it whom you talk to online? I don't know. What do you think? Who is it?
I think we all have to take accountability for ourselves now. I think it's harder for parents to bring up children because now you're the leader they're looking at, and you better be the most moral, a higher moral code if you're not taking them to someone that withholds those beliefs that you want to instill in your children. So now who do kids look up to? So
where is that going? What do we think? Where's that? Where
do you feel that technology is a big culprit as to why people aren't going to church?
Absolutely.
Really?
100%. Oh, yes. I think it's the biggest thing.
Really?
For sure. 100%. because not just, I mean, I'm not singling out Facebook groups. That was just an example. There are many reasons why technology keeps people inside in everything, from going out and playing kickball in the park. It's not just religion. It's everything, because people have everything right there in their phone. They have, apps and stuff they can Google if they're looking for a moral compass. They can Google, like, what's my moral compass, or before the internet, people didn't have a way to do that. There was none of that. All you had was your house and or wherever, and your books, and that was it. So you had to go to the bookstore or something if you wanted to find, or you had to go talk to a neighbor, or you had to go to a community gathering.
Right.
Before the internet, we didn't have. That was the only thing to do. There wasn't. Now that we have the internet, people can use that to stay inside. They can use it to try to find answers. They can try to. Yeah, we're experiencing a fragmentation of that because of what the internet is doing.
So, do you feel that religion connected us together as human beings? Religion's been around since forever. Since forever.
Yes. Of course it did.
So now that we don't have that, where do you see society going into? Because right now it looks a little angry.
It does.
It's a little like nobody's checking themselves and saying, "Oh, that's inappropriate." It's just like, there's no personal code of conduct for businesses to have. Every business has a code of conduct and a code of ethics. Why don't we have one for our personal selves? Shouldn't we create our own code of conduct and the way we want to present ourselves to the world?
Well, AI will inevitably do that with us and for us. Here I go. We're getting sci-fi, and
we're getting sci-fi.
Kira just loves getting sci-fi,
and then my head explodes.
And then her head explodes.
And then I'm like, gotta take a nap for the next hour.
We'll see you in episode 23.
How would AI take care of the moral code for us?
Because
I think we're just going to end up killing each other, eating each other.
Because slowly but surely we're merging with AI. That's what's happening. We're merging with AI.
So
our phone, we're already cyborgs with our phone. We're already cyborgs. That's already happened. That's going to become closer and closer within us until we're like literally part of the
machine.
Phone.
We're a Terminators in that way.
We're like part. But I think it's going to be more. I think it's going to be more positive than people think. I think it's going to be even more positive than like Elon Musk was like warning about on Joe Rogan a year ago. Like the singularity, that's what people talk about, like singularity. We're in this quest to get AI as smart as we are, and that's not what's really happening. What's happening is AI is already smart, and we're
catching up,
trying to catch up with it.
Yeah, and
it's going to change everything. It's going to change art. It's going to change religion. It's going to change doctors and medicine.
So do you think it's
everything?
Do you think that's a natural? Do you feel that this is a natural evolution of humanity and
yes.
humankind?
100%.
Or do you feel that it's actually undoing the fabric of our society and will be the demise of humanity?
I feel that it is.
Because it could go either way. I mean, I've seen the movies. Have you seen the movies where they I haven't. If you ever watch a movie, it's obviously 100% true. So, I mean, whoever's making the programs it's up to them how they would like the game to go. How would you like the Matrix to look?
I mean, I think option one is what's happening for whatever reason.
You're so positive. That's why I love him.
I feel option one. Yes, I strongly
such a glass
believe
half full kind of guy.
Yeah, I posted something recently that there's like I'm the opportunist. So while one person's arguing about half glass and one's arguing about a whole, like I drink the glass and run. That's me.
See, I'm a realist.
I'm the opportunity.
I'm like obnoxiously a realist, where it's, realism can always be seen as negative sometimes because you're like, yeah, but that's reality. Like, I'm sorry. How, like, it's not negative, it just is,
To you, the glass just is. I'm drinking the glass, and the pessimist and the optimist are arguing over how much is in the glass. Correct. You're just looking at the glass.
I just sit there like, look at that glass of water.
So, however you think about it and perceive it, that's how you're.
So, how do we deal with? I mean, I think we all feel that disconnected from people. Why see someone when you can just text them like, hey, what's going on? It's just easier, do we fight against that and actually become the social beings that we are? Even though AI is coming in and taking on humanity even more, each year, right? There's something new that's a little bit more, we as human beings, living, breathing organisms, haven't changed. Do you know what I mean? So it's like the example I always give is, when women are in their 40s and they're like, I don't understand why I can't get pregnant. It's like, okay, just because you waited doesn't mean your body evolved to where you're supposed to have children when you're 16. You know what I mean? Like, body-wise, that hasn't changed.
Right.
Women's bodies have not evolved, Yeah. When you hit 40, you should, it's just, I'm not saying don't have children. However, don't be shocked when you can't have them. Just because now you're a working woman, and that's societal, that's cultural. Your body is still the exact same. So when it comes to this, do you feel that we actually need to make a sincere effort to create community again, because we are social beings and we are seeing more depression and isolation and mass shootings? And I think it's this whirlwind of we're being so caught up with AI. Our brains and our bodies haven't evolved yet to even handle this, right?
I feel like, yes, that some people are more than others. Now, how do I feel about, as far as, us more gatherings happening and such? I think that's something we all need to think about as far as how much that's still happening. I'd like to see the numbers on how much it really is happening now compared to before. How is AI and internet helping gatherings? Is it helping gatherings in any way? Are there ways that we can think of that it's also helping? That's what I would try to look at. Maybe that's a topic for next time, because I need to research that, or I need to look into that. But there definitely is less, interaction.
I just wonder that it's causing the downturn that we're seeing in society by us not knowing how to communicate with other human beings, because we don't do it anymore. We don't do the neighborly thing, the block parties. It happens in corners of the US, but generally speaking, there would be church picnics, and that's how you would get jobs. That's how you would meet people and date. That's how, as a 16-year-old, you'd be dating Joe Smith, who lives down the street, and you guys go to the same church. Now we've got online dating, and you've got fake avatars.
But doesn't online dating give us a bigger pool of how to meet people? If you meet someone online dating, then you can go meet them. You wouldn't have been able to meet them necessarily before.
How's that going, right? For you?
For me specifically? I mean, I'm still single.
Well, exactly. But it's the bigger. Does the
but
bigger
it's worked for a lot of people, though.
I think just because it's a bigger pool doesn't mean you're going to find the substance. Whereas, if you were to see that person interact with them at church, they go to church, the families know one another, they vacation together. There isn't a lot of that anymore. I think it's really breaking apart the fabric of society. And I feel that, now that you asked how I feel, I feel.
Yeah, let's hear it.
I feel we need to absolutely make an effort to bring community back again, whether that's bringing back religion or making a stronger attempt not to allow AI to absolutely consume us, because our human bodies are not evolved yet to handle it. Our brains cannot handle being in isolation. We're the increase of depression is skyrocketing. Why is that? It's because we're sitting in a corner on our phones for, hours at a time. When you go out and shop, people have this blank face on, like zombies.
Mm-hmm. And
they're just like looking at their phone and they just have no expression on their face. And you're just like, where did the humans go? And it's, the interaction of just saying hi and how are you? How's your day? Do you do that to strangers?
Me? I mean, sometimes.
If a guy says that to a woman down the street, he'd be a creepy as F.
So do you think we should get rid of, would you be happier if there were no phones?
No, there needs to be a balance, just like with anything. It's like, hey, I really want some chocolate cake. Should I eat the entire cake today? Or maybe just one piece? There's gotta be a balance. Just like in dieting, when people do like these hardcore diets and then they gain the weight back and you're like, it's a balance. Don't get too consumed into the robots is what I mean.
Well, and people talk about, this goes into another topic, but it also kind of applies because it's about the moral compass. We always had traditional family and family, there's always been family values, and that's always been a big part of it. Well, a big thing that allowed people to have family and values was bonding and watching the news and watching television and having that. And because of the internet, with Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and everything's becoming so fragmented that people aren't coming home at night and watching the news with their family. Because the news, or what political party you're in addition to like religion, is also, that's a bonding experience. Like if you're a Democrat or if you're a Republican, like you bond with your, and you do that because the news informs you. And we're losing a lot of that because the internet is fragmenting everything with Twitter and Instagram, and everybody's individualized. We've got podcasts, we've got people stating their opinions. So the moral of family bonding over it, that's also disappearing. And like the family going to church together because of all of this fragmentation happening. So, people are hard on the news, and we need to not forget that like the news, the way it's always been in Western culture and such, is a huge piece of family life and how people connect to one another and watching the news together. Like that is a big,
that's true.
That's a big important thing. And so the news for a very long time helped give people a moral compass in that way. They were a good contributor to that. And, you have to sometimes ask, as well, like, if there was no Twitter and there was no internet, what would it be like? What would it be like? What would Donald Trump be like without Twitter? If there was no Twitter and internet, if there was no, you know what I'm saying? He would be it would feel different if he wasn't tweeting.
I think his head would explode because he wouldn't be able to get his thoughts out of his brain. So then it would just literally explode. And it would be like brain matter all over the room.
And
how's that for a visual?
and what would, JFK and Reagan and other presidents be like if there was Twitter and if there was internet? Trump is the first. I mean, Obama had it, but it came later in his term. But he's the first one that's really had the full blown social media developed as it is. And so we have to look at that too, and just how much of an impact the internet and social media and AI are having on moral compass and religion, and is it a good thing or a bad thing? And you're going towards we need to have internet and stuff can be good in some ways, but you think there's a balance because you think we're losing community.
For sure. When kids get home, they're like, okay, on the iPad, Sally's in her room, Georgie's in his room playing, Call of Duty. Everyone's like into their corners. How do families now come together and do something as a family without technology? My God, can you imagine pulling technology out of a kid's hands is like it's pulling teeth. It's used as discipline, as punishment when you take it away. Like Sally's watching a YouTube series and Georgie's, playing whatever. And it's at what point do families come back together? Church or religion created that. And now how do you do that? Or is that even needed anymore? I think so. I think it's a core reason as to why we see what's going on in society. And I'm not saying that society's bad. I think we will all agree everyone's a little on edge, and it's not as positive of an environment as we all maybe would have grown up in.
And we'll wind down here in the next couple minutes, obviously. But one other question I had just on that, because point well taken, is there's also one thing we haven't mentioned, which is virtual reality, which in the past 30 years, it's since like Pong, where there was like, what Elon Musk also talked about. Virtual reality's progressed immensely. Once we get to the point where, because virtual reality is good now, like you put on the headset and it's kind of good, but it's getting better all the time. And it's getting to the point now when you put it on, you can't really tell. It's going to get to the point where you put a headset on and you really can't tell, like full blown, the difference, like an entire virtual world. And are there virtual worlds that, will we be able to create virtual worlds like that help moral gatherings? Will we be able to go to a church gathering in virtual reality, even though we know it's technology, but we get those warm feelings because it's so virtual and so real that you can't tell the difference.
Do you still get those warm feelings, even though you are not feeling the energy of that person in the room? We all have vibrations that we give off all the time. We don't see it. We have vibrations. We are energy, after all. That's all we are is matters and atoms put together. It's not like, it's so if you're not in the same room with someone, do you actually, and you're in this super souped up VR situation, you're still not getting the vibration of that human being that's in the room.
But so what if we stayed in one for like a really long time and just forgot? What if we started one, we put one on our head and we're like, I'm just going to stay in it. And we forgot that we were actually in one because it was so real, everything. Maybe we're in one right now. Maybe that's what happened. Maybe we forgot.
Yeah, but I can feel you and touch you, right?
Yeah. In the virtual reality.
I can punch you if I wanted to. That's off camera.
Off camera, the punching.
The sister-brother rumble of punches on the front lawn. I don't know. That seems, maybe, yes.
I went sci-fi again.
If pigs could probably fly too if we strap them with some wings. So, anything's really, truly possible. However,
I think people need to think about all this. This was a great topic.
You're a great human being. I'm happy you're not an avatar and that you're real and you're,
as real as we know real.
As much as my brain is telling me that you're real.
Yeah. I'm glad you're real too, Kira. We just, when we get off camera, we just fight about everything. So we're going to bring more fighting.
I think so too, right? I can't remotely see you fighting.
More debate. No. But yes, I think that this is a great
time to go to church, Geoff. You need to go to church. You need a moral compass.
I think religion is good. I think it's good. We need, it is important for that reason. And like I said, I was raised Presbyterian. Religion is good. We need to ask ourselves about community gatherings. Is technology influencing that in a negative way? And we need to keep focused on how this is all changing. Media, technology, and where is all that going as far as our moral compass, and where is it all going as far as religion? I think these are questions people need to be asking themselves.
Absolutely. It's being consciously aware of what's going on, what you're allowing, and it's all about balance.
Balance. So stay balanced.
Yeah, why not? Who wants to skew on the wrong side of anything?
I mean, ain't that the truth?
Shit.
Well, I think we have to wind down now.
Yeah, I guess.
It was.
This was a great. I thought this was very intriguing. Though I have to admit, I really do love all of ours, but I'm biased because I'm the co-host, so I can say that. But I think this has like a thread of, hey, people, wake up. When was the last time you saw someone in real life? Get out of your closet and of looking on your phone.
Go out and hug your neighbor.
Make some cookies and create like a community gathering of human beings in the same room.
Yeah.
Until VR comes out, and then we won't have to worry about that.
We'll forget that we're in. I think that's what we did this time around. Anyway, that's a topic.
Thank you for joining us. Make sure you subscribe to all the channels. We're on the everything. So
subscribe to everything. You guys have been commenting on YouTube a lot. We responded to those. That's fun.
Thank
More
you, Instagram.
here
Thank you, Facebook.
At Launch Radio. We're the future, and the future is Launch Radio. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Later.